If you want to print it out and put it in a binder, you're welcome to. If you want to, I've had people do them as a Word document. I've had people do them as PowerPoint slides for all of their different resources. Either of those are fine. If you have some other electronic form you would like to do it in, feel free. If you get too far out there in terms of weirdo programs, you might want to save it as a PDF before you send it to me to make sure I can open it. There will be a spot you can submit them online. So you can either submit as a hard copy. Usually I will send y'all an email when I'm done grading them if you want to swing by and pick it up. I usually, because most people, about 27 seconds after you're done with this semester, you don't want to see U of H again until you have to. And going into summer, if you're not taking classes. So I'll usually send another email in the fall saying, hey, I have these. You have until X date to pick it up. Otherwise, they're either going to become samples to use or go to the circular file known as the trash can. I love how you said that. Because, after a while, you get lots of things.
Oh my, where's that?
So, but I do, like I said, I know a lot of people, once you're done, and you're not coming back for a while. So I do usually kind of give a second notice in the fall before I get rid of any of them. I'm going to get rid of that. But you can see here, this is a title page, just what it was. So remember, one of the first things you need is an introduction. So, and one of the big things I'm looking for in your introduction is just what is this geared towards? I'm going to look at it differently if you are writing a classroom management plan for a kindergarten class versus a high school science class. Or maybe you're teaching art or music or PE. So what is the audience for this class? And it doesn't have to be like, I will be teaching second grade language arts and I will have 4 rotations of students throughout the day. It doesn't have to be that specific. Just give me I'm gearing mine towards 2nd or 3rd grade. I just want kind of a ballpark of what you're looking at. Because most of you don't know exactly where you will be when this is done. So that's the big thing about the introduction. It's just kind of like, what is the purpose of this whole thing you're doing, and what is the audience? Yes. It doesn't have to be.
Oh my God.
It can be double-sided, but it doesn't have to be double-spaced. So, this is definitely a project, an assignment that I want to be able to see some of your personality and creativity come out in. Like some of the examples we've passed around before, this one here is pretty plain and simple. But, I've had people who, really you can see that, you open it and you go, this is an elementary person. I don't even need to know what their introduction says. I can tell just by looking at it, but really seeing more of people's personality and your creativity. So, yes, if your grammar is so terrible in these things, I can't even understand it, then yes, I'm going to give you a ding for grammar. But that's not really my focus in this. It is, that you've gotten the point of this whole class is kind of my focus here. So get creative with it, or get creative as you want to. Like me, I'm not a creative person. So when people tell me to get creative with things, I'm like, I'll add some yellow on it. That'll be creative. I'm not a creative person. But you're welcome to get as creative as you want to with your project. So the second section here, before you're really starting kind of the meat of the classroom management plan, is your philosophy statement. And this doesn't have to be like your, big philosophy statement of education or whatever. This is really sort of your overarching, what is your philosophy of classroom management? How does it fit with your philosophy of teaching? It doesn't have to be real long, a paragraph or 2. I'm not looking for anything super in-depth here. The way I usually explain it to people is this part is kind of your global, like what is my thoughts on classroom management. And then as you're in each section and you're introducing those sections, you will give a little bit more specifics about like my philosophy on discipline is this. my philosophy on whatever is this kind of thing. Okay? Any questions about the philosophical statement or philosophy statement? Alrighty, so those two pieces are kind of some of the ones that you don't really have any artifacts for. And then you come into the sections where you're going to need artifacts. So somebody had their hand up, but okay. Yeah, those two sections you don't really have artifacts for. And then you come into the sections where you need artifacts. So on the sections that you need artifacts, what I'm going to be looking for is that you have a little bit of an introduction to that section, and that's where you're going to be more specific about your philosophy. Like my philosophy related to the first days of school is blah, 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 blah. You also, at that point in time, will need to bring in a theorist or two that you are kind of drawing your ideas from for this section. Okay? So you'll write a paragraph or so, just kind of introducing the section.
Sort of, I just have my theory.
And then in the section, you will have whatever artifacts you choose to use. So, this person has these artifacts, and then you'll notice they gave a little bit of a description about why they picked these pictures. They did give credit here where they got the pictures from. I'm pointing at the screen right here, like y'all can see that. And that's exactly what you need to do. I would say here that, she didn't really have an intro here, or he, I don't remember who this is, but, so she didn't really have an intro here, so she's folding kind of some of that into this. But if you've got your intro here, like I told you to, then this is really just a sentence or two. Like, why did you pick this over everything else in the world you could have picked, and how are you going to use it in your classroom? Kind of deal. And then also, like I've told y'all before, you don't have to give a full, APA citation for every picture you pull from somewhere. But give credit where credit's due. Somebody took time to take these pictures and post them somewhere, so you can borrow them. So make sure that you give credit. It also works out good for you, because later on, if you're looking back and you're like, oh, I really like that, and then you know where you got it from, so you can go find the rest of whatever it was.
I have a question. Do you use our own pictures?
You can just put, if you use your own pictures or pictures that say you have taken some snapshots while you have been observing in somebody's classroom or from a friend's classroom or whatever, you can just put, like in Dia's case, maybe she's taking pictures in her own classroom, you can just say personal pictures, my classroom or whatever, or, in your name or what, just making sure that you've acknowledged where the picture came from. If it's from, your, somewhere you observed, it could be, classroom picture, Miss DeFino, Kayla Middle School. I only know that because I know that where Lindy is doing observations. Because I used to teach there with that lady. So it all stuck in my head.
Chaos breaks loose. Teacher's awesome.
I love it. Miss DeFino's good too.
Yeah, no,
Alrighty, so you can see here she's got the an activity to do with some information here, where it came from as well. A bulletin board with some book information. So
when we use artifacts like letters to parents or letters home or whatever, we don't actually have to make those write our own.
No,
okay.
You do not. At this point in time, y'all still have at least a year before you're going to be in your own classroom. For most of you, I know a few of you are currently already there. And if you're currently already there and you have something you use, then by all means, do not recreate the wheel. I'm not trying to create a bunch of work for you. I've had plenty of people who have pulled off, maybe a couple of examples of letters to parents and put them both on the page and said, I want to send a letter to my parents to, start communication on the first day of school or whatever. Short and sweet, simple. Okay? But if you have something you already use, feel free to use it. Same thing with I know a lot of teachers will do sort of teacher websites or whatever. Feel free to take a screenshot of somebody's teacher website and put that on there and say, this is the teacher website. I would like to set one up for these reasons, blah, blah. You don't have to go create it just to do that, okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this is more about collecting all of your ideas than actually implementing them all at this point in time, okay? Here's another activity to do the first day of school. Another first day of school activity, and then we are to a new section. So basically in each section, like I've said before, I'm looking for some sort of intro that kind of tells me a little bit more about what is your philosophy specific to that section. Like the one we were just looking at was first days of school. So give me a couple sentences, specific to first days of school, what is your philosophy of classroom management? What theorists do you pull from and why? And then give me your artifacts with a little bit of explanation about each one. Sometimes people like to put the explanation with each artifact. Sometimes people like to put them all at the beginning. However, as long as I can figure it out, you're okay. Okay? You can see, they go through with just others. This is classroom environment. So this person has a couple different ideas of how they want to, or how they might arrange their room. Got some organizational ideas. And you can see here, this is one that I guess maybe they took from an observation. So it just says, picture taken from Ms. Bardell's classroom. Some ideas of reading corners in this classroom.
I'm gonna do that in my 8th grade class.
So,
Otherwise, we can't do that.
different activities to do, and then they have classroom policies and procedures.
This person's just
with different things they want to do there. One thing that I believe this one is from a couple years ago, and one thing that I instituted last year that is on y'all's rubric as well, is one thing I want you to have, one of your artifacts for your policies and procedures needs to be a list of procedures you want in your
try
classroom.
that in 8th grade.
Okay? You don't have to describe every single one of them in detail, but just a list of all of your procedures. Okay? Yeah. In the policies and procedures section. All right. So this just keeps going through all the sections like they have before.
So basically just a title page, an intro, and then your activity.
Right. I'll pull up another one to show y'all as well. Yeah. I PDF all of these just so they didn't get wonky from computer to computer and all of that. But, yeah, a lot of people do them. As long as you do it in Word or Publisher or PowerPoint or something like that, you can send me the actual file, or you're welcome to PDF it before you send it to me. In general, if you are uploading a lot of things and all that, making them a PDF makes it where things are not quite as likely to move around, especially if you've got lots of text boxes and all of that sort of stuff. This person did a table of contents, which is always nice because it's easy to find things then. And you can see this person got a little more creative. They, have a background on a lot of their stuff. They talked about their introduction. Once again, their philosophical statement. Their first days of school. So, they gave a potential schedule. This was somebody that was secondary.
Oh my God.
And then, things that they want to do. Different, sort of, since it's first stage, some ways to get to know you. I don't know who has 600 dogs, but That would be scary. I love dogs, but 600 might be a little bit much. So, and then moving on to classroom environment and safety. Different ways to arrange what they're going to have, how they're going to use it. So, do we have any other questions about the classroom management plans?
And we submit this when we come to our last day of class?
Yes.